Hi everyone, it's Professor Kishbaugh. Thank you for joining my podcast for Biz Dynamics Academy. It's a management and leadership review. It's designed to help educators and students understand basic management concepts and use them whether you're in college or whether you're in business or starting your own business. For my first few episodes, I'm going to focus on a very relevant topic: the transition to online education. Right now, thanks to social distancing, most of our educators have had to move their courses online. So I've interviewed a couple of professors and a couple of administrators that are in the teaching and learning arena to get an idea of some of the things that professors can do right now to ensure that their students are getting something out of an online education. You know, there's been that big debate whether online education is even worth an education. And as more and more colleges move to an online and a virtual platform, there's a great challenge that comes with keeping students engaged. In this episode, I interviewed Dr. Andy Gould with Hillsborough Community College in Tampa, Florida. He's in charge of the Entrepreneurship and Business program at the college, and he's one of the professors who's had to move his program online due to social distancing. So here we go, Dr. Andy Gould, and enjoy. Hi, everybody. This is Professor Greta Kishbaugh, and welcome to my interview this week. We're going to focus on this Teaching Online series. I'm going to do a series of teaching online. I'm going to bring in professors and professionals who are teaching online and some that are not teaching online. So my guest today is Dr. Andy Gould. He's from Hillsborough Community College here in Tampa, Florida, and he is the epitome of the most amazing classroom professor I have ever met. He engages his students, he brings in guest speakers, he brings in people. His classes are always full and people are waiting for him. But Dr. Gould also has some experience in teaching online. So I have him here as my guest today. Hi, Andy.
Hey, Greta, thank you so much for including me in this really amazing...
You're the first person I thought about when it came to, now that we have to transition to online teaching till at least May of 2020. That's why I have you here today. So Andy, tell me a little bit about yourself and then we'll go right into the questions.
Sure. Well, first of all, you called me a professor, and that's true, but I wouldn't categorize myself as an expert in teaching necessarily. I think it's a learn as you go kind of profession, and I do put a lot of effort into it, as we all do as educators. Mm-hmm. But I think this recent circumstance is providing a great opportunity for us to innovate even faster, and get better at it. So my background is I'm a longtime entrepreneur. I'm from New York. I've been in higher education for a relatively short period of time, about 8 years or so. Have really enjoyed it. But most of all, I've enjoyed being able to share a lot of the practical life lessons that I've experienced in business with students that I interact with.
Okay, fantastic. So one of the things I wanted to know, first off, we'll just start off with a couple of questions. What do you think is going to be, you're primarily a classroom teacher. I know you do online training as well. Andy also works with veterans, and he's working with the IVMF group right now out of Syracuse University. We have a program where we're training veterans, but as a classroom teacher, that's probably 80% of your, right?
Yes.
80%?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm different. I'm the 20-80. I have 20% in class and 80% online. But tell me, what do you think are going to be the greatest challenges for professors and teachers and experts right now transitioning to online?
I think that if I were to break it down, and this is just anecdotal, I would say that about 70% of educators today in higher education have taught or are teaching some form of distance learning. I'm not saying they're doing it necessarily well, but they've had experience doing it in some way, shape, or form. I think the balance are folks that have had literally no experience online for different reasons, or have given it a shot, didn't really enjoy it, get much value out of it, and pivoted back to the classroom environment. So I think the challenge is threefold. Number one, I think people that have been teaching online are going to need to get better at it. And I think out of that 70 or 80% that have experience online, probably about 30 to 40% are amazing at it. I mean, like really experts at delivering online education to students. The balance kind of rely on textbook publishers and maybe have quizzes online, read chapter 1, take a quiz, read chapter 2, take a quiz, that kind of thing, maybe with a periodic discussion board with their learning management system. And that's good because it's better than not having anything there for students. But I think we really, as a profession, need to amp up our ability to deliver education in a much more meaningful way that can really impact and transform the lives of our students. So I think the challenges are, how do you go about doing that? How do you integrate different things into your learning environment online? Number two, how do you overcome the fear and anxiety of not being good at it? You know, like what do you do about, well, I'm not sure, I haven't tried that. You know, you kind of have to just have an entrepreneurial spirit and just give things a go. And you have to accept before you try that things are going to be sloppy, that things aren't going to necessarily work as you had planned, that there's going to be technical snafus. People might lose their connectivity, or some of our students don't really even have robust access to technology. Maybe they're relying on their phones only, and that's hit or miss in some instances as well. So patience, I think, is going to be a key attribute here, both on the student side and on the professor side. You're going to have to kind of understand that students are giving it their best for the most part, and students in turn are going to have to understand that educators are giving it their best. And I think together we'll learn from one another. We have so much to learn from our students. We like to think of ourselves as the educators, you know, the people that are all knowing. I know I'm not all knowing. I learn things every day from my students that I am always inspired by. So I think in this particular instance, there's so much for us to learn from our students. And just to use effectuation as a sort of framework for all of us to operate under, one of the bird in hand means that we have readily available to us as educators are students. And I think we need to leverage that knowledge base as best we can by almost having them feel like an active participant in the development of an online learning modality.
Okay, great. So what are some things that you're going to do differently then now?
Well, one thing I'm going to do is to leverage live video. I have recorded videos previously and uploaded videos of myself just on different topics and things like that. But I think what I'm going to do is much more active video engagement with my entire class. And have them in real time be able to interact with me, interact with one another through virtual breakout groups online, maybe have them be directed to discussion boards or just simply a Google Doc or Word document that they're able to work on in a private setting and then share out what they work on with the larger group when they return back in. Okay. I'm going to also have I'm going to experiment. I don't know how well this will go, but I'm going to experiment with students actually taking the lead on instructing classes. I'm going to give them predefined topics so they have time to prepare themselves, maybe in small groups, and then have them be the instructors for the day or instructors for 15 minutes. Give them that chance to take leadership, give them that chance to kind of teach in a language that their fellow classmates will understand. So those are a couple of the things that I'm going to experiment with.
Okay, I like that. And I just want to, for our listeners, give you just a quick review. Andy and I both teach for community colleges, which means that our average student is not 17 or 18. We have students that are in their 30s and 40s, and even some in their 50s and 60s. So we're reaching a whole different diverse group of students, some that are really familiar with technology and some that aren't familiar with technology. And one of the recommendations I made to some of my peers, this was just last year, I did a poll to see how many teachers are requiring their students to do an intro video, and it was very low. It was only like 20% were actually, so we are in our bachelor's program, they are required to do an intro video, just to maybe even on their cell phone, they can be sitting in their house outside on the patio with the sun shining in the background. Andy, you look great. This is Florida, right? So, and we encourage that. And I was surprised at how many professors were not doing little videos. And I like the idea of teaching. That's fantastic. I love it. Okay,
I think also for your audience, it's important for them to understand that our demographic at the community college who we teach not only are a different age demographic, but they're experiencing different life challenges as well. So they may have children, they may have 2 or 3 jobs, they may have recently lost one of their jobs. So there's enormous stress, even regardless of what we're going through right now, that's placed on our student population. So it's important for us to be able to not assume that they know how to do X, Y, and Z, and to kind of find out what exactly they do know how to do and what they would like to see delivered to them. So that's kind of the approach I've always had just in business in general, is rather than developing something and hoping it's the right thing that people want. Instead, we should really be asking our students more actively, what do they want in the delivery of education, and how can we best meet that need?
That's fantastic. And I did have a call just a few days ago with some students, and I asked a few questions, and some did not want to chime in. But remember, on all these conference call softwares, there's that chat room.
Yeah.
And I asked everybody to kind of give me an idea. There were some folks that didn't want to talk live, and they were typing in the chat, and that was pretty amazing. I had one student who I know is very, very shy in class, but he was typing in the chat. So I gave them some stuff. So, okay.
Yeah, I think you can also, take advantage of this as a moment to humanize ourselves. So, you're looking at me right now, and I'm sitting on a terrace that I'm fortunate enough to have. But the other day I was doing a call from this upstairs where I live, and then like behind me is like this big pile of laundry, and the person's like, is that your laundry? I'm like, oh my God, yes, that's my laundry. But that's kind of cool, because that's how we all live, and we're allowing people into the privacy of our homes, our lives. I think that could ultimately, in an ironic way, make us even much closer together, even though we're operating.
Please don't go buy a studio. Please don't go get a green screen. Do not record your videos on green screen. Go out and get, I recorded a video of live Facebook from my kitchen, and my son has like Star Wars figures all over the place, and people are like, what's that? Is that Darth Vader?
Yes,
so same thing. I mean, like, you could see the dust, you could see how dirty the place, how cluttered it is. So
the other tip I just want to share, not that it's that great of a tip, but it's a tip nevertheless, is perhaps because I'm just inherently lazy, I will rely on my students oftentimes to uncover and unearth really cool tools that can help me to deliver education. So I just gave an assignment to 2 of my classes to go find tools and resources that could be shared through an online learning platform on the topic of personal finance is just one example. And there are a lot of tools out there, from financial calculators to fintech apps and so on and so forth. But I think to empower students to find things that I don't know about, but they are really good at identifying, makes them feel part and connected to something, but also helps me to deliver education in a way that I otherwise might not have thought about.
I think that's a great idea. And of course, Andy, you're a little different than most professors. You're instructors, facilitators. You're really into your students. And I think that's the most important thing. And we were talking before we started, James Lang and Flower Darby have a book out. This is Teaching Online. And I'll put some information in the description of the video. And it's all about personalizing right now, making sure that you're not just setting quizzes and leaving and they never hear from you. You've got to do some videos. You've got to do face-to-face videos. Live calls are wonderful. You got to keep it personal. And I mentioned to Andy just before the call, even if you're giving some audio feedback, almost all of our LMS systems now have some kind of video or audio feedback that we can give in the assignment. So even if you're not the type of person who feels comfortable doing these web calls, you can give feedback. Let them know they're there. Almost all of them have like a little video. You can record a quick video. Hey, this is your professor. Here I am. I'm just about as stressed out as you are. Let's work together. And those are really important. So it's not about right now. We talked about content. I'm kind of throwing content out the door right now. I found out from some of my students that almost all of the quizzes are Google. You can cheat on Google in almost every quiz I've given from a textbook. textbook.
Yeah.
So I've kind of taken the textbook, and the publishers have been great. The publishers are giving free access codes, but still, again, if you're just set and let is what he calls it, James calls it, set and let, you can't do that. You can set up your assignments if you've got them writing papers. Let's say you're teaching a class that requires them to write APA papers for business. You still got to keep up on them and keep them engaged. And even if it's just checking in a couple times a week on a video, or sending them, we've all got in our system, we have the text messaging system. We call it Spark. And we can hit a button and we can send out text messages to people too. Students don't like phone calls, but that text message system seems to be pretty effective.
There's another tip I would just give, which is just common sense, and that is to really improve your communication protocols with your students. So students, when they email you or text you or however they're corresponding with you, you may have in your syllabus, don't expect a response from me for 48 hours or something like that. That can work in a traditional setting where you have office hours on campus and they can set up an appointment to meet with you. It's a little bit more complicated right now. So I think you have to really be highly responsive. Like I've been answering emails all this week. We're on spring break this week, but students are really anxious, and I'm under no formal obligation to respond to any of those email requests. In fact, I have an auto response message on my email to students. But I am like within 10 minutes, if I see it, I'm banging out a response. Over the weekend, we're talking to get together today on a Saturday, Greta, and I've already gotten 2 emails this morning. I responded back, and in fact, some of the emails are helping me because I've got like dates wrong and due dates wrong because I haven't adjusted them, and it's really helping me to like not have to stress out other students. So pay attention to communications coming in from your students. Try your best. I know we're all experiencing different challenges, but try your best to be responsive in a really timely manner. I think students will appreciate that a lot. And I can't stress that enough. Offer to talk to students over the phone if that's their most comfortable way of talking with you. Offer to do a Zoom call with them, or whatever video technology your institution's using. Open up all channels of communication as actively as you can, so students don't feel like they're out there just languishing on their own to figure things out.
Great advice. Okay, Andy, thank you so much. And again, I know we're recording this on a Saturday, so I appreciate you taking the time. We've been asked to stay home till May, and that doesn't mean that I'm going to be doing nothing.
Exactly. Well, we'll never stop. No. And for your audience, I just want to give a real shout out to Professor Kishbaugh for all that she does. Not just at her institution, St. Pete College, in the community at large, collaborating with me and a bunch of people that work with me on many different projects, whether it be our work with veterans, whether it be our work with youth that are in an at-risk environment in the community. Whoever is fortunate enough to have Professor Kishbaugh as a professor is extremely fortunate. And I say that with the absolute sincerity that she is a rock star, but an empathetic rock star. Yes, and I think that empathy is what is needed most today. So thank you, Greta, for everything.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And I sent a quick video out the other day to tell my students just to breathe. Namaste.
That's great. Yes.
And I just noticed in St. Pete today, there's a yoga company. Of course, they've all had to close down the gyms and yogas, and they're doing free live training online. So they're doing free live training. Well, thank you, Andy. And again, for the purpose of the video and the podcast, I'm going to interview some other professors too. I'm really targeting professors who are little, have to change, kind of make that change online.
Yes.
I'm going to focus on those professors first. Now, I've been teaching online for 15 years and I'm still not that great at it. So I'm one of those professors who's still learning, still learning how to interact with students. I would recommend one more thing before we go. I bought a dry erase board for my house. It just got delivered yesterday, and I'm going to try to do these live lectures as much as I can. I mean, it's okay to record some stuff. You can record a PowerPoint. If you do the PowerPoint, put yourself up in the little corner.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be very effective. And like Andy had said, if your students can chime in, if you've got the function on here, we're using the chat room or using the virtual rooms, use those as much as you can. And the students will get used to it. Thursday was rough, but the students got used to it. And after that initial call, I think everyone feels a little better. So
and
thanks,
hey, Greta, just as a suggestion, I don't, maybe you've already done this, but perhaps through Biz Dynamics or your own process.
Yeah, Biz Dynamics Academy. Yep.
Academy. Maybe you set up like a private Facebook group for educators if they want to ask questions and get peer-to-peer feedback, directions, suggestions, what's working, what flopped. Maybe you build a community there of
That's a great idea.
That are connected to you.
I think I'll do that. I'll take that. Okay, Andy, thanks
All right,
so much.
right on. All right, have a great day.
You've been listening to the Biz Dynamics Academy Leadership and Management Review podcast. Next time, we'll interview another educator or administrator to get their feelings on how social distancing is affecting their classroom. Thank you and have a great day.